Herman Cain, thank you so much for joining us here on Newsmax TV.
Thanks, Kathleen. Happy to do it.
It's great to have you back. You are traveling the country as part of Cain's Solution Revolution. How is that going? And how are the GOP presidential primary candidates responding to your 999 plan?
The campaign is going great because my whole objective is to keep people focused on not just who the ultimate nominee is going to be for the Republican Party, but focus on specific solutions like my 999 plan. And it's going over real well. I did a rally recently in Charleston with Steve Colbert on the campus of the College of Charleston. 5,000 students came out. Now, I thought they came out to see Stephen Colbert, but they gave me just as big an applause as they gave Stephen Colbert, and I talked about government's too big, Washington is broken, we are broke as a nation, and they responded. So that's an example of the reception that we've been getting with our solutions revolution, as we call it.
Now, you have traveled the country extensively with the GOP presidential candidates, so we'd like to get your quick take on a few of them, beginning with Rick Santorum. He has scored victories in a few states recently. Will his success continue, and can Santorum win the presidency?
I believe that Santorum's recent victories are an indicator of just how undecided the electorate is. Go all the way back to Iowa. Even though Rick Santorum won Iowa, it was only by a little bit. Technically, 3 people came pretty close. We knew who was going to win in New Hampshire because Mitt Romney hung out there, he lives there. South Carolina was won by Newt Gingrich. We thought that was going to give him momentum in Florida. He didn't. Mitt Romney, because he spent a lot of money in Florida. And then you go to the Midwest, I think it basically says that the outcome of this is still very unpredictable. But I also believe that Super Tuesday is going to be a defining moment for all 3 of the top contenders.
Do you think that Rick Santorum could potentially win the presidency? Do you think he has what it takes to go all the way?
Personally, I have my doubts. No specific reason. He is a great guy. He's a great candidate. But one of the criticisms that I have had of all of the candidates, be more specific. I believe that if he's more specific about how he's going to get this economy going, then I think he has a shot. The same for Newt Gingrich and the same for Mitt Romney. Whoever the nominee is, they've got to be more specific about how they're going to move this economy, which is our biggest domestic challenge.
Now, you endorsed Newt Gingrich. Do you still feel that he is the best candidate, and could he still win the nomination?
He can still win the nomination, and I think Super Tuesday is going to be a determining factor, like I said. But I also think that he could beat Barack Obama. I believe that Mitt Romney could beat Barack Obama. They have different negatives that are going to be attacked. As long as they deal with their own negatives in the right way from all of the negative attacks that we know that's going to come from the administration, I believe either one of them can beat Barack Obama.
Now, is there a big contrast between Newt and Mitt, and should that contrast matter to voters?
That contrast should matter. Mitt is a manager. Mitt is very well experienced. Yes, he has a very good business background. But remember, as president, you're not going to make all the decisions by yourself. You're going to surround yourself with the right people. That's the key to great leadership. I happen to believe that Mitt has a lot of qualities and has demonstrated that he can do that based upon his experience. I also believe that Speaker Gingrich can do exactly the same thing. He was very receptive when I talked with him prior to my endorsement of embracing 999. Now, he didn't say that he was going to totally adopt it, but the fact that he's open to it, because see, when you look at his specific economic growth proposal, his is almost like 999. It's 12.5, 15, and 0. The reason that his numbers are 12.5 and 0 on the first 2 components is because he doesn't have that 3rd component. That's why we were able to get it down as low as 999.
Now, a recent Washington Post ABC News poll gives President Obama a clear edge over Mitt Romney. Let's say that Mitt Romney wins the nomination. You say that he could potentially defeat Obama, but are you worried at all that Obama could get a 2nd term?
Yes, I am worried that Obama could get a 2nd term for the following reasons. Number one, if Mitt gets the nomination, he's got to be more specific. His 59-point plan isn't cutting it with the people. Mitt, I hope somebody on your staff is watching this interview. You've got to be more specific so people will know what you're going to do. Just saying we need to get this economy going and we need to create jobs isn't specific enough for the American people. Secondly, I believe that the fact that he is now behind President Obama, in fact, all of them are behind President Obama in these comparison polls, it says exactly how hard it's going to be to beat him. When 45% of the people that they survey in these polls still believe Barack Obama is doing a good job, we have a problem. And the problem is we've got to do an outstanding job of educating the electorate on this failed presidency and this failed administration. If we don't do that the right way, whoever the nominee is, he could get elected a second term.
Now, the president recently stated that he deserves a second term. Does he?
No, he does not deserve a second term. Stimulus money to reward his friends and unions in the various states forced Obamacare down the throats of the American people. Unemployment has been above 8% for months now. Stimulus money was supposed to bring it down below, keep it below 8. It hasn't gotten down below 8. Now it's 8.3. Want to know why? They are manipulating the numbers. A lot of people don't realize that 8.3 that they are cheering about is because they excluded people who have dropped out of the workforce. The number of people that are still in the workforce, they've taken that number down. So if you manipulate the numbers and they're not counting the underemployed, if you put all those back in, the number is in excess of 15%. I'm not the only one who's done this calculation. Former Labor Secretary Elaine Chao published an article recently, and she basically came to the same conclusion. A lot of people have come to that same conclusion. But unfortunately, the lamestream, lapdog media, they're not going to play that up because they basically want to try to help, not all, they want to try to help Obama get reelected.
Okay, let's talk about Obama's contraception mandate, which requires religious schools and hospitals to provide free contraceptives. What is your reaction to this policy?
We should send him a thank you note as Republicans because he's crossed the line clearly. It's an attack on religious freedom, the First Amendment, and this is why the uproar. Now, the arrogance of this administration is typical of the arrogance of this administration. One of the president's people made the statement, we are going to sit down and talk with these groups and see if we can't, come to some understanding. That's code for they're not changing. They are just that arrogant that they're not really interested in changing. They think that they can wordsmith them way out of an attack on the First Amendment. And not only have Catholics gotten up in arms, other religious organizations have also gotten up in arms. Because if we allow an attack on the First Amendment like this, there's no stopping. And I don't think the American people are going to allow that.
Now, there's increased pressure for the president to cave. Do you see that happening?
I don't see it happening. It's not in his DNA. But just like President Obama didn't believe the Tea Party movement was going to have an impact in the 2008 presidential election, where we took back control of Congress. And even the president said, the Democrats got a shellacking. He didn't believe it would happen. He asked members of Congress to walk the plank to pass his health care plan, and they paid the price. So he believes he can attack the First Amendment, our religious rights, and get away with it. I don't think so.
Now, you're beloved by Tea Party supporters. What role do you see the Tea Party playing in 2012?
The Tea Party movement, the citizens movement, is going to play an even bigger role in 2012 because they are even more angry than they were 3 years ago when this president took over. So I see the Tea Party movement playing a very big role. I have spoken to many Tea Party groups. I still speak at a lot of Tea Party leadership meetings, and the enthusiasm is there. And that's what we are going to need, because with all of the negativity that's been going on in this primary contest, that's killed a little of the enthusiasm of some of the people that are conservatives and Republicans. We got to bring that back, and I think that's where the Tea Party movement comes into play.
Last question for you, Mr. Kaine. Getting back to the primary, it remains a roller coaster. Should any of the candidates drop out and rally behind another?
I think they should, but I think they should do it when they are ready. Not because of pressure from the establishment, not because of pressure from the political, so-called experts. No, when they feel that they should drop out, that's when they should drop out. Because after all, that's what the process is set up for.
When you say they, who do you think should drop out? Like, in what kind of scenario?
Well, I'm going to let the people decide. My scenario is this. Super Tuesday, nearly 200 electoral votes are up for grabs. If one person does a sweep and gets a large number of those, I think the others ought to take that as a signal. Because yes, we learned something from Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Florida, in the western states. But Super Tuesday, by that time, you will have a very good representation of the cross-section of voters across this country. So the results of Super Tuesday. Now, if Super Tuesday ends up in a three-way tie in terms of they split those nearly 200 votes nearly equal, this can go on for a long, long time.
Herman Cain, thanks so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.